So, Denise, you got any big plans this weekend? What do you plan on doing?
We are actually celebrating my twins turned 15 last
Wow.
weekend, but their brother couldn't be home, so we're celebrating their birthday a week late with the entire family, so
Man, that sounds exciting. So it's double trouble.
double.
Twins' birthday.
And, they're starting driver's training next week, which is, look out world, here they come.
I think that's kind of cool that we both have 15-year-olds and they both turn 15 in February. Actually, half of our office has 15-year-olds that turned 15 in February. And so kind of exciting stuff. Welcome to the Huskie Pack Podcast. And I'm your host, Dr. Don Killingbeck, here with Denise, and we're reliving Donuts with Don and Denise. I mean, it was a week or two ago, and we sat down we had three people show up, and we're like, this stuff is too good not to talk about it and put it out into the universe because nobody likes taxes, but everybody loves our school. And so we want to kind of explain, like tax structure, how it works, where the money goes, and so that our community can be informed because we get it. You get the tax bill and you're like, "Ah," and then you see the school and you see the kids and you're like, your heart is warmed. And like, how do you balance that? And so we're going to talk about taxes today. What's our main goal in doing this, Denise?
I think we wanna talk about, where your tax dollars are going and make sure everybody understands that. Of course, as a district, we wanna do the best we can, but we also do not want to add taxes because nobody likes taxes. Nobody wants to see that tax bill. So we wanna make sure we're not increasing taxes, but doing the best we can for all of our kids.
It's so funny for me as a fiscal conservative. So I would almost suggest I might be hyper fiscally conservative, and Denise is laughing. People get the wrong impression. And so they see what we do here at school, they see how we stretch limited dollars in big ways, and they assume that we're spendy. And that's not the case at all. In fact, my doctoral work is in resource allocation for the best student outcomes. And so when you see the way we invest and the things that we're doing, they're not by accident. And they're by focusing on kids in our mission and vision of serving our students and community. And so, if you're a fiscal conservative like me, I would appreciate if you lean in, give me a call, stop by the office, and stop the hate instead of and actually find out who you're talking about or what you're talking about, rather than filling the void with assumptions. And so, very conservative over here. We want to keep taxes as low as possible and get the best outcomes for kids. Proposal A. So, you kind of handed this baton to me, Denise. I feel like people are going, man, he's talked a bunch in the intro. And so, Proposal A is a super interesting thing. It happened in the 90s. Property taxes were crazy in the 90s, right? We've seen in the 70s, there was the Headley override or Headley amendment that limited the ability for taxes to increase beyond inflation or 5%, whichever was higher. And so here we go. In the 90s, taxes are still too high. And so the legislators, in their wisdom, came up with Proposal A, which, by the way, was good for a vast majority of school districts. We saw an increase in funding. And what it did is it lowered everybody's school operational mill down to 6. So we were at 6 mills, and bottom line is that money didn't come to the local school district. It went to Lansing. So everybody was taxed 6 mills, went to Lansing, and then they had a formula, a per pupil foundation allowance. And so they funded per kid. And then that money, you did an enrollment count, you told the state how many students you had, and they said, this is how much money you should be able to operate on. And here you go. But by the way, that's not it. We're going to deduct some money. So they require every community to pass non-homestead operational millages, which is 18 mills on second homes, businesses, and vacant land other than typically farm fields. And so bottom line is every community in the state of Michigan passes this. Sometimes they have to go more than once. We went more than once, but that money is deducted from our pupil foundation allowance. And so we have state sources, we have local sources, and that's our operational budget. And that's how we get our foundation allowance. We have our per pupil foundation allowance minus the non-homestead equals the amount that we get from the state. And so, Denise, you're going to tell us a little bit more about this 18 mills non-homestead.
So the 18 mil non-homestead millage, like Don said, is on industrial and commercial properties. It's also on rentals or second homes in the area. And this 18 mills for a district like Hemlock is right around $2 million.
So 18 mills non-homestead, we have to pass it. Do you know when our next non-homestead election is? Yeah.
So it'll be on our November ballot for the Hemlock community.
Yeah, so our voters will see this coming up. It's a tax that we have to go for. I don't know if I'm, it's kind of interesting is when people vote no on something like that, where we have to go, it just creates a waste of energy. As a efficiency focused financial person, it just drives me nuts because it's something we have to do. The state requires it. It's the only way we're going to get our minimum foundation allowance, our minimum funding for kids. And so if it's voted down, we just have to go. We are forced to go over and over again. This happened a couple years ago. And so actually like a no vote on this is actually like throwing tax dollars away because we do have energy that we spend even on an election like that. And so,
yeah. And then the non-homestead millage has no cost impact for the average single homeowner. If you just have your one home, this doesn't impact you.
Right. So Pure People Foundation allowance, that's the money we get to cover our expenses and operations. That actually pays teachers, keeps the lights on. What else does it do?
Those are the dollars that we use for things like curriculum, teachers' wages, our custodial and maintenance staff who keep our buildings running, secretaries. That is truly just our day-to-day costs.
And then capital funding. So, people see good things happening across the district. They see great things, I believe, going on in classrooms and in the school buildings, but they also see things happening, whether it be roofs, boilers, build outs like we have going on with our gym, our theater, our science classrooms that were just recently remodeled. And there's two funding sources that kind of that are the source for that. Let's dive in a little bit. Tell us about construction bond.
So we have construction bonds or capital bonds, and then we have sinking fund. And so a bond is likely something that you're building. So kind of like a new construction loan on a house. So that's adding on classrooms or things like a gymnasium or a theater. Those are your big projects, things that you're not going to be able to do any other way than to take out a bond. And then sinking fund is more like when you have a savings account and you're putting some money aside because your house needs new windows or something. So that's a smaller collection that just is to maintain our buildings for smaller projects, but projects that are still too big to really be able to do adequately with the general fund dollars.
So, one of the things you think about also like construction bond is the voters approve it. It's for a duration. and we actually go out and sell bonds to raise the capital. And then as we pay tax dollars, they come in, and then we pay down those bonds and pay down that debt. And so we've been at 3.9 for several years. When I started here 13 years ago, we were in the fours. I think we were 4.3, 4.4 maybe. I definitely know it was higher. And we've lowered that mill rate. But we also passed a sinking fund. And what's so amazing with the sinking fund is so typically schools, if they can only rely on construction bonds for taking care of their buildings, when they pass one, a lot of the money goes to infrastructure, boilers, roofs. You mentioned windows and doors and things like that, that really are just keeping things status quo. Well, when our voters in 2020 passed our sinking fund, one of the things that it did is a roof that we would normally in a bond just tear the whole roof off, replace the whole roof, regardless if it all needed to be replaced. We were able to go in and say, okay, this is in our roofs are in sections at a building. We're able to go to the building and say which section needs to be replaced. And so we're able to do the industrial arts wing we did a few years ago. We were able to do a gym at Casey Ling a few years ago that needed to be replaced. And so we're able to jump around and take care of spots that are needed. But what that also does is allows us to get the full value and full life expectancy of our roof. So it's supposed to go for 25 years. And rather than getting to 22 and going, hey, this is life expectancy, let's replace it. What we're able to do is to eke out another few years. If we get to 25 and we find it's still serving and working, we go to 26, and then we keep monitoring those things. And so it gets the most value for our community and the most value for our kids. One of the interesting things, Denise, is in 2022 when our voters approved our tax neutral bond, at that time, it didn't include the $3.5 billion of infrastructure that has been built in the last 3-4 years. And so when that real estate has come online and is now part of the tax base, it allowed for the taxes, the debt to be, because that's levied in the taxes. And so now all of a sudden, the taxes are getting paid down sooner. And so we have the opportunity to be able to consider tax neutral options sooner. And so that's something that the district will have to look at and examine as we have continued demand and need for classrooms, safety, connection of our campus and additional parking and things like that. But we're stretching every dollar, making sure everything counts as we do that.
So construction bond versus sinking fund, again, both of them are great funding sources, and they just have two different purposes. So, the construction bond, again, is building and adding new things, and the sinking fund, again, is kind of that savings account to help the building to be able to, one, extend life, and two, do projects that we can't always do. So, I feel really fortunate to work in a district with really great buildings and things that have been maintained well, and you could tell that we have the community support to maintain those things. But having that sinking fund just means that when a roof has an issue, we can repair it rather than putting out a bucket and allowing it to leak and cause even more problems.
The tax neutral promise, Hemlock Public School District's tax plan, key points is we have a non-homestead, 18 mills. We have no intention of changing that. We have to go to the voters this fall. And so we don't plan on changing that. Construction bond, we're at 3.9 mills. We don't plan on seeing an increase. As mentioned, the district will have to examine when and whether to go for a tax neutral opportunity where we're able to generate funds with keeping that tax base. And then our sinking fund, as we move forward, that's good through the rest of the decade. We don't anticipate a change. The result, no additional taxes or tax increases from Hemlock Public School District at this time. Tax neutral is the name of the game. That said, we know taxes are going up. We know that the district is a desirable place to live, which increases demand, which makes it so that businesses and homeowners want to be here. And that means your property is more valuable. And so, please understand that's not a response from the district. That's a reality of how things are structured. Denise, can you kind of shed a little bit of light about how does the math work?
So when we talk about it, we talk about it in mills. So 1 mill is $1 of taxes for every $1,000 of taxable value on your home. For example, if you had a $100,000 house taxable value, and you had the 3.9 mills that Don's talked about, that's $390 per year.
So now when you say taxable value, because there's a taxable value, which is usually half of the value of your home. So typically we're talking about a $200,000 home.
Yes.
That's valued for tax purposes at $100,000.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so every $100,000 of taxable value equals that $100. And so like a 3.9 is 390, a 1 is 100. We kind of kept the math simple.
Mm-hmm. And in looking at it as at $100,000, if you have, say, your house, you just paid $400,000, you're then looking at roughly $200,000 of taxable value if you're looking to estimate.
Yeah. And if people had questions about this, could they give us a call? Would you walk them through it?
Yeah, I'd be happy to talk to people. Taxable value is public information, and it's pretty easy to pull up someone's tax bill and walk through it with them.
Yeah, you can go to GIS and look at people's property. I know that we've done that as people have made wild claims like, hey, my taxes went up 300%. And then you look on GIS and you find out that's not the case. And so, we just want to make sure that we're putting the facts out there in the universe. We know that nobody likes taxes, but everybody loves kids and loves the school. And so if you have questions, concerns, suggestions, please reach out to us. We'd love to hear from you. Denise is our Director of Business Operations and HR. I'm the school superintendent, and there's nothing more that we'd like to do than answer questions. We really thrive in serving our kids, our community, our families. And so if you have questions or concerns, please reach out. That's Nobody Likes Taxes. And I feel like that's a wrap. What do you think, Denise? Do we got anything else we should add?
I don't think so. I do wonder about putting the Saga GIS website out there for people. I think that's a great reference, and you can actually see like 3 or 4 years worth of tax history. So you can, if you're questioning, you could look back and say, well, this is how much it cost 2 years ago and last year and this year. I think it's a good reference.
We can put that link in there. So, well, folks, you have a great day. Thank you so much, and keep listening to the Huskie Pack Podcast.